Hi guys, Danielle here from Boomer Benefits, and in today's interview I'll be speaking with Josh Scandin from Heritage Wealth Planning. Josh has a channel here on YouTube that covers retirement topics from a different angle than I've ever seen before. I suspect that the reason that his videos are popular is he talks about how people can survive retirement on less money than they originally expected. Josh believes in reality retirement planning, and you'll see exactly what he means by that in this interview. Josh is going to tell you why he believes that you can retire comfortably on less money than you think. He'll also cover what your biggest retirement expense will be and how you can avoid the hidden tax bomb inside your retirement. Furthermore, Josh loves the idea of using your early retirement years to finally earn money doing what you truly love to do, and why you should absolutely consider quitting your crappy old job to launch an encore career. You'll also appreciate his advice on determining the right amount of money you'll need to make ends meet each month in retirement, and what to invest in if you're just starting to save for retirement at age 55. So much interesting material in this interview, so hopefully you can benefit from the whole new perspective that Josh brings to the table when it comes to looking at your retirement. Without further ado, let's dive into this interview with Josh Scandin. Good morning, Josh. I'm so glad that you're here to talk with us today about Heritage Wealth Planning. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Well, thanks, Danielle. Welcome to the great state of Georgia. Beautiful but crisp day out here in April 1st. April Fools.
That's right.
Absolutely. What's going on in the great state of Texas? Hot?
You know, I was wishing that it would be hot this weekend, and we actually had a cool front come through. So it was just cool enough that I couldn't sit in the backyard and enjoy the sunshine without a jacket. But I'm not going to complain, because in a couple of months when it's 110,
Yes.
I don't want to jinx myself and predict a hot summer here for Texas.
I just put some seedlings out, and I hope that they survived last night, because it did get to about 32 degrees. So,
wow, that was
garden, man. You always think it's always a concern when you're planting your seedlings at first. So we shall see.
Good. Well, I hope they turn out okay.
Being here, I appreciate you having me, and I absolutely look forward to talking to you about Medicare stuff at some point in the near future as well. This will be I'm stoked for my audience, and I'm to listen to your expertise on that. Indeed.
Yeah, so I was just noticing how many videos that you put out. Like, you really have just a ton of content. So can you tell us a little bit about kind of your background in finance and what you've been doing and what led you into putting out so much education here on YouTube?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is as a poor kid growing up in the state of Maine, in an island, small island off the coast of Portland, Maine, and on food stamps, when you didn't have heat in your home in the wintertime, you had to go stay with neighbors and all this stuff. So being poor is something I've always despised. I can't stand it. And we used to have to take a boat back and forth to school in Portland and whatnot. So it was a wonderful life living on an island, but being poor sucks, man. No other way around that. I remember, thinking that there's got to be a better way than this. And there is, and it's just through due diligence, taking your time to learn, not get rich quick schemes, but just, structured, just planning, making things happen, and a work ethic. I've always had a work ethic. I don't know why. But I almost failed out of high school. I was shocked to have graduated, because I hated school, still hate school. And what Mark Twain says, don't let school get in the way of your learning. And I hate it, always have, but I did graduate by the skin of my teeth, and I went in the Army for 4 years in the infantry. And as most young men will attest to, you go in the military, it allows you to mature, because young men are usually not as mature as their women counterparts. And so for me, it's just a godsend. And so I got out of the Army and I went to college, but lo and behold, I remember talking to this guy. I mean, I've had so many different jobs, Danielle, just grunt work and stuff. And I was in the infantry, so I wasn't afraid of hard work. But never forget, talking to this guy. His brother had hired us to put up these real estate signs in Fairfax, Virginia, and he had to do it kind of under the cover of darkness, because it's literally illegal. So he punched down a little sign in the ground that said, KB homes for sale over here, and you had to do it at night, because the cops would, basically give you a ticket and not arrest you for doing. Hey, long story short, so it was fun. It was profitable, but I just remember talking to him, and one night, as we're literally covert operation, he was talking about mutual funds. I said, what the hell is that? I had no idea what a mutual fund was, and he started talking about it. I said, really? And so I was in college already at that point, and I said, that sounds pretty interesting. And so I've kind of since took it upon myself to learn about investing, and then I realized after many years of being a financial planner, but really an investment advisor, not knowing anything about financial planning, how much I did not know. And so I
Mm.
said, I want to get the CFP. I got that. I started the studies for that in 2001, and I got it in 2005, I believe. That was fine, but that wasn't what made me a better financial planner. I mean, it was okay, but it was actually getting a master's degree from the College of Financial Planning. That was by far and away, the best education I've ever had when it comes to
Wow.
financial planning. So that was in 2009 and 10, and so since then I've been just a financial planner, not an investment management guy, and that's what I
Okay.
like.
Yeah.
That's the
Awesome.
story.
Well, when it comes to financial planning, I think a lot of the clients that I run into here, especially some of the ones that are helping their parents age into
Yeah,
Medicare, they're sort of overwhelmed by the whole concept of
yeah,
planning. And I'm always happy to meet adult children like that because they're an opportunity for me to explain to them, hey, you have time still. Watch what's going on with your mom. Medicare isn't free. And when you
yeah,
have it, it doesn't pay for 100% of everything. And I'm like trying to, information dump all the things they need to prepare for because we
yeah.
meet so many people coming into Medicare at 65 who are going to be like on Social Security alone.
Yep.
And that's really devastating. So, what do you think are the most confusing topics out there for people as they get ready to retire? Let's say, in their early 50s up until age 65. Why is it so confusing? And what are the topics when you're talking to people that are so important to break down into easy pieces?
Well, the first thing, Danielle, and I know it's a family show but it pisses me off is that we have this uh, in the vernacular that you can't retire, like Susie Orman. And she's sitting there saying you need $10 million to retire. It's just this freaking nuts, man. I sit there and all these people out there, and then we have this fidelity study that they use every year that you need $286,000 for
Yeah.
medical, and that doesn't include long-term care. They have all these just worry words, negative Nellies out there telling people they can't retire. And it ticks me off because it's the facade. Bankruptcies, half of bankruptcies are not caused by health insurance, by lack of health care. It's not. I mean, the stuff that's out there is completely fake, is completely facade.
Okay.
The Fidelity study, which says, and it's true, when they look at Medicare B and D, and then you look at Medigap, that you're going to spend $286,000 for a couple, and your health costs in retirement. Well, how much are you going to spend on food? How much are you going to spend on housing? Because housing is
Yeah.
by far and away, Danielle, nothing comes close. Nothing comes not anywhere near the cost of housing by far and away. You
Yeah,
can
and so
just look
many
at
of them renting these days. I read that too recently that a lot of times they don't have a mortgage paid off, and so they're heading into rent, and they're going to be paying that kind of rent all through the retirement. So it's really expensive.
well, even if you had your mortgage paid off, I mean, your property taxes don't go away, your maintenance
Yeah.
doesn't go away, your utilities don't go away. And so the thing that just frustrates, and I actually commissioned a survey on Google. If you ever go to Google, they can do a survey for like $200. I asked them to ask 1,500 people what they think their biggest expense is or will be in retirement. And I gave them 5 choices. The top 5 from the BLS, which is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They have this thing called the Consumer Expenditure Survey, CES. And the number one is without a question, 36 to 37% of your expenditures in retirement will be on housing.
Wow.
And everything else of the bottom 4, and that's healthcare, that's food, that's transportation, that's entertainment, all that other stuff is within 10 to 15%. And so they're all kind of jockeying for position number 2 as you age. But anyway, in every single, I don't say 70, 80% of the people said healthcare will be their biggest expense in retirement. It's simply
Yeah.
not true. It's just not. Now, will there be somebody that's an outlier? Yes. One of my dearest friends, her mom is in a nursing home in Harrisonburg, Virginia, for $8,000 a month. Yes, I
Wow.
get that, which is why I have long-term care, because it's a catastrophic issue, which is exactly what insurance should be used for, to
Mm.
cover catastrophic illnesses. But that doesn't happen very much. It just does not. And just because we have anecdotal evidence, like I knew someone who knew somebody who knew somebody, that doesn't mean it's likely to happen to you. And so a lot of these people put on hold the enjoyment of their lives because they're so
Yeah.
worried about leaving that crappy old job, which is what I call it, because they're just worried. And it infuriates me because as a Christian, we are put on this earth to bring good cheer, to bring the good news. And when you're always worried about things, you inherently limits your ability to do that. And there's no reason for that because the numbers are so clear. Anyway, that's my diatribe.
That's good though. That's really good because we do find people afraid to head into retirement. And you know, in today's world, we
Yep.
have so many people working well past 65,
Yeah.
and they can because it's an internet-based world rather than a manual labor type of world. But you know, they still want to retire. You know, everyone
Yes.
looks forward to that. And so one of the things I noticed when looking at your videos on your YouTube channel is that you had you know, different amounts of savings and how people could retire on there. So one of them was, you know, can you retire on just 300,000 in
Yeah.
savings? So tell us a little more about surviving retirement, if even if you don't have a fortune put away today.
Yeah. Well, the first thing we have to, let me get my little thing here. So I want to show you something that I think a lot of people and a lot of financial planners will do this. I hate to say deliberately because that make it seem nefarious, and I don't necessarily think it is. I think a lot of financial planners are just not truly students of the business. And so what they'll think is they'll say, "Hey, you need 50K a year to retire, and that expenditure will go up each and every year as you age." And
Okay.
there is no evidence of that whatsoever, none whatsoever. The BLS, again, Bureau of Labor Statistics. I mean, at this stage nowadays, it's so well known in the academic cycles that most people, what will happen is they'll go kind of like this. There's initial spending will probably go up in the first couple of years, but then it'll drop precipitously as you age. And a
Okay.
lot of people say, well, that's because they're being forced to. And there's no evidence of that, none whatsoever. I mean, there could be and there's definitely some people who are forced to spend less because they ran out of money. But you can't, we don't have empirical evidence to state that you spend less money because you have nothing left. We just don't have the evidence to
Mm,
support that assertion. There's a guy, and I'll tell you right now, there's a guy, and I wish this guy, I try to get an interview with me, but I'm sure he's just inundated. But this guy named Ty Bernicki, and he wrote this article in the Journal for Financial Planning in 2005, which for me it just changed everything, where he used the numbers from the BLS and the Consumer Expenditure Survey, and he's called it reality retirement planning. And what that meant is, if this is true, which it really is.
mhm.
We have evidence of this. It's through the roof. It's not really debatable now. What are we doing? What are we telling people that they got to save instead for people to save with their expenditures that go up? That means essentially we're telling people to save too much. That means we're telling people to work too much longer. And there's a professor out of Boston University named Larry Kotlikoff who's written a ton of stuff on Social Security. I mean, he's like the expert on it. And he has this idea of what's called consumption spending. So basically what it is like, hey man, when you hit retirement age, like give you an example, Daniel, I got 4 kids. For the longest time, my wife stayed home. We had one income, 4 kids. All right. So at the end of the day, are we going to spend the same in retirement as we do today? And the answer is inherently no. We're not going to spend
Yeah.
anywhere near. We got 4 sets of braces, 4 sets of glasses, 4 sets of sports, all this stuff. We're just not going to consume the same amount that we do now. And so for us to think that when we hit retirement, if we're spending $100,000 with a family of 6 in a big house that uses, I don't know, freaking 55 kilowatt hours a day in electricity, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
So what Larry Kolikoff will say is, if you smooth your consumption relative to the reality on the ground, you can quickly see how something like this makes sense. It's just intuitive, but because
Yeah.
we're so fear mongering, the industry as a whole, which has an incentive to get you to invest your money so they can get paid on it, just won't share that. And it's just
Yeah. You know, that really brings up a good point for me because my parents are 70-ish,
yeah,
and I know my mom, she worked a couple of years past age 65, and then even after she's retired now, she barely draws from her financial accounts, and so
yeah,
I tell her, like, you've done such a good job putting away all this money, and you're trying to live on beans, like you need to meet with your financial planner and decide how much you're going to pull out every year and use some of that to make your retirement easier, mom. And she still has this mentality that
yep,
she needs to have this chunk of money set aside for us. And, you know, my brother and I are successful business owners. We definitely don't need her money whatsoever. We told her this on many occasions. But there's this sense of holding it, being afraid
yeah,
to let go of that pot of money. Whereas, you know, I want to see her, you know, she worked so hard putting all that money away. I want her to take some of it every year
yeah,
and be able to enjoy the types of thing in retirement, like, you know, travel and gardening and some of the things that she really
yes,
enjoys. But
exactly.
people are afraid to let it go.
Well, we have evidence of that. Actually, we have what's called behavioral finance, which a guy named Richard Thaler won a Nobel Prize for. We got another guy, Daniel Kahneman, who also won a Nobel Prize for this kind of things, that people have this chunk of money that they're very hesitant to tap into that principle. They'll take the income from it, but they really get nervous when they're tapping into the principle, even
Yes,
if they don't need it. So for your mom, is she married or is she widowed?
she is. She's married.
Okay, so here's the issue. I'm just telling you right now, and I wrote a book on this, and a shameless sales plug, but
Let's see it.
where is it? Right here. The Tax Bomb in Your Retirement Account, all of 85 pages. It's get it right now. I think it's $10, or I can't remember what I was selling for. The issues that is going to have is if she really wants to leave it to you and not to the IRS, what's happening is she's avoiding taking advantage of her married filing jointly tax status.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens now is, and I have a chapter 3 is the widow's tax trap, because the minute one of those spouses dies, your mom still has required minimum distributions, but now she no longer has 2 standard deductions to take. And on top of that, it's going to make her tax brackets go up. And on top of that, it'll put her Social Security subject to tax, her dividend. I'm telling you, it's never mind the Medicare stuff, the IRMA. So I see these couples in retirement who have done such a good job of saving, and they're just wonderful salt of the earth people. And they've been told they need to defer, don't take money out of your IRA.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom should still be doing that, and she doesn't have to spend it. She can take it out of the IRA and at least put it into a side account and pay the taxes now. And that way, when she and your pops or her husband die, at least you all inherit that tax free because of step up in basis. And so many people don't do that. They think they're doing it right, and what they're truly doing is they're leaving the surviving spouse a tax bomb, thus the tax bomb in your account. But then they're leaving you and your brother a tax bomb too, because you'll inherit that money and have to pay tax on it. It's just sad. But
wow, that's a knowledge bomb right there. I'm going to make her watch this video as soon as I put it out.
No,
I'm constantly telling her.
I got a research paper I got right there in my window, my tab right there, talking about the propensity to spend dividends and not capital. It's academic research is through the roof on this. It's, inherently it doesn't make sense. You're like, why does it matter? But it does make sense. People say, if I dip into my principal, that's scary because I can never get that money back necessarily. So I just assume live on beans and take the income. And even if I have this big fat principal, which is exactly just human nature.
Yeah. Well, and now they have a good reason to think of that twice. So that's one mistake. What are some of the other common mistakes that you see people make in financial planning today?
But first and foremost, I think a lot of people assume retirement means not getting an income. And I don't agree with that at all. I think retiring just means you're leaving your crappy old job to do something else, something that you like. Like, for instance, I left my crappy old job where I was making big money to do this thing at YouTube. And I enjoyed immensely. Am I making anywhere near where I was? No, but I love it. And now, who knows? At some point, maybe it will pay me what I need, which isn't what I was making before. And I'm comfortable with that. So, let's just say going back to gardening, you want to raise some, you want to raise some asparagus, and you think you're going to stay in your home for 15 years. You got these asparagus plants, which are perennials and can grow for many, many years. And you have neighbors, or even you can do whatever you want. You can do classes at the library, show people, maybe they pay you $25, do a YouTube channel. There's a guy out in Houston named Kang Starr who does a YouTube channel on just raising stuff, and he's making money. Just do anything. It doesn't mean you're sitting there just smoking cigarettes and drinking martinis at retirement. Who wants to do that? You're put on this earth to do something, to bring the good news, and the good news, whatever it is for you, doesn't mean just sit back and sit idle. In fact, I can tell you probably can do this even better than me. Men in particular, they leave their crappy old jobs at 62. They think they're going to go play golf, and then they play golf so much that they get bored. And what happens is when they get bored, they start watching Fox News or MSNBC, start watching the stock channels, and they start getting bitter. I'm telling you, I've seen it happen a million times. They start getting bitter because they're bored. They don't know what to do with themselves. And so before you retire, start thinking about what it is that you might want to do as a side hustle. And it doesn't even have to be where you're making money, but just because you're retired doesn't mean you're not working necessarily. That's a big one. I wish people would recognize that retiring, just in my opinion, the way it should be nowadays, is leaving what you didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And to do something you did want to do. And
go and have an encore career and something that you really enjoy.
100%. You ever heard of Rick Edelman by chance? Okay, well, he's a big he's, I think, one of the top 3 or 4 registered investment advisors around in the world.
Okay.
And he had, and I'm somewhat a fan of Rick. He's a good guy. He kind of grates on me a little bit, but he had a discussion I thought was pretty interesting. He says people will have, the way we're living longer with longevity expanding, we're going to have 3 to 4 careers in the course of a life.
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I think there's some legitimacy to the idea that what you're doing today isn't necessarily what you can be doing 20, 30 years from now. So don't just get stuck in, I'm a welder, I'm going to do welding for the rest of my life, or I'm an accountant, I'm going to do accounting for the rest of my life. Find something that motivates you, that gets the juices flowing. And man, I'm telling you, it will change everything. It really will.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, because I know I follow a lot of financial planning podcasts and things like that, and people get into this mindset of, they've got a budget, they have a spending problem or a budgeting problem, and sometimes it's really an income problem.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so, you can earn, even if you're on Social Security, you can earn
Absolutely.
up to a certain amount each year before they're going to tax that. And even if they do, there might be some things like you said that you just really enjoy that would make it worth that. We have a post on our website about 50 ingenious ways to make money once you retire.
Yeah,
And when we
that's
were putting the post
fantastic.
together, I remember being surprised myself, even at how many opportunities there were.
Yeah,
Especially we have the things like Uber and Lyft and, easy driving things that you can do, but you can pet sit from your house.
yeah.
There's all sorts of different little part-time things that you can do. So if you don't have something that's a burning passion that you can make money on, but you can make just enough that you keep that principal up, or that you're not worrying so much about the money that you're taking out, we do live in a world where you can make money right here on the internet, and you can find other things that you can do that would just earn enough on the side to help you have the funds you need for day-to-day living.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, $300 or $400 a month is a long-term care insurance premium. You
You
see what I'm
bet.
saying? I mean, that's literally that's not chump change. It's not.
Yeah.
And if you can get that by doing something you enjoy as well, that's not. But then the answer, the question I can hear people saying, but I can't afford it now. Have you actually done the budgeting? And this is going back to your initial question about some of the things that frustrate me in financial planning. We always start with how much do you have, if you have $1,000,000, we'll take $40,000 a year out. And I said, no. We got to start with how much do you need? How much do you need of income, right? Because what we find is that I'm just telling you, man, many people in the United States don't need nearly what they think they do. And
Yeah.
we know this. How do we know this? Because a median household income in the U.S. is $60,000. That means 50% of the people make more, 50% of the people make less. So the median household income is $60,000. You take out FICA, 7.65. You take out your taxes to the state, when you're in Texas and Georgia, and then in the feds, that's probably another 12%. And then you take out your 401k contributions.
Hmm.
After all that, you're only needing $50,000 a year to maintain the same income that you had before. And I'm telling you, man, I can tell you, Danielle, how many times I talk to people. I said, how much you think you need? And they're like, well, I said, think 5,000 a month would do you right. And that's including Medicare B and D and the Medigap. And they said, yeah, it is. I said, okay. So if we can generate $5,000 a month, we're going to be in a pretty good place. And yeah. Okay. So let's
Yeah.
go back to that. And now we back in Social Security at your primary insurance amount. And we know it's so easy to do this now. We say, okay, we need $50,000 a year, which is, $4,000 a month roughly. You're going to get $2,500 a year from Social Security if you take out your full retirement age. And let's just use myself for example. My wife will get half that, so that's
Hmm.
2,500 plus her 1,250. That's 3,750 a year right there. And if my trusty calculator is correct, 3,750 a month right there. That would give us $45,000 a year in Social Security. And so,
Yeah. So that
how
gap
much?
really might not be as big as you think it is.
No. And people say, well, Social Security is going bankrupt. It's not. I literally just did a video on this yesterday where we dove into every single aspect of the trustees report to show how silly it is. The idea is not going bankrupt. Even in 2034, they got enough coming in. All right. Now their capital base is gone. I get that, but they still have enough coming in from payroll taxes to pay 79 cents on the dollar. I
Okay.
haven't done anything, and that will be that until 2092, and that's the worst case scenario with Social Security. It's just not going bankrupt, and so not to use Social Security as part of your planning, just stupid. I hate to say it's dumb. You should, because it's there.
Yeah, you should. And, the thing is, you want to have it not be the only
Yeah.
thing. It shouldn't be the only thing that you have, but it also isn't something that you want to just discount when you're putting together how much you're
No.
going to need to retire. So if you, a question for you, if you had somebody, let's say they're 55 or 60, and now the kids have all gone through
Yeah.
college and they're starting out flat. They don't have any debt, or maybe they've got a little debt that they're working on paying off, but now they're 55 or 60 and they're just starting to put money away.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for someone? Because I think we have a lot of people in that boat where,
Okay.
like yourself, they have 4 kids and they do their best. They work through, maybe both of them are working, but they might be in jobs that are hourly pay, and we have a lot of families in that situation today. So if you were 55 or
Yeah.
60 and you're just now starting to put money away from your free retirement, what things would you have that someone in that situation consider or work on?
And we have little to no debt.
Yeah, let's say the debt is, let's just say no debt. Maybe
Okay.
they're,
Well, that's
they don't have a ton put away, but they also have managed not to rack up a ton of debt.
all right. So let me just touch on that real briefly, though. I'm telling you, the most important thing you can do in retirement is not have debt,
Yeah,
without question. So with let's just say
I
someone has
agree.
$100,000 mortgage and they don't have anything put away. Should they invest or pay off the mortgage? Pay off the mortgage. I'm telling you right now, pay
Okay.
off the freaking mortgage. And the reason for that is simple because you're not getting a tax deduction anymore. The standard deduction is so high, the interest write off on a $100,000 mortgage payment is not enough to get you above the standard. It's just not. So you're not getting a
Okay.
tax
That's a great tip.
deduction. People say, if I need the tax deduction, I say, are you even getting it? I don't know. Have you looked at your 1040? Okay. So they're just not. And so what
Yeah.
happens, I'd say to those people, you got to pay off their mortgage. Now, if I may too, let's say the mortgage is paid off and they have a 401k or they have a 403b or they have a TSB or something where their employer is also contributing.
Okay.
But you got to take advantage of that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's par for the course, and you got to invest that as aggressively as you possibly can. And that'd be like a total stock index fund or something like that, Danielle. Just
Okay.
something simple, get the
Yeah.
broad market coverage, and don't sweat it. But here's why: is because if you look at your labor is a bond, if that makes sense. All right, your labor, you're renting your labor to a company to pay you an interest rate, which is exactly how a bond works. So I'm working for Joe Schmo's, electricity company, and Joe Schmo is paying me $10,000, whatever, $100,000 a year, whatever. That
Okay.
is a bond, and so we don't want to be a conservative because we already have our bond covered in our labor.
Mm,
And our Social Security is another bond. So we have the bond side covered. We've got to get some equity, some stocks, and not because stocks are great, because they'll outperform or anything. It's because of diversification.
okay.
Stocks are the only way we're going to make any money in the future, and that there's no guarantee of that at all. But if you look at Social Security and your labor as the bonds, you've already met that component paid, and then you got your home paid off as well. So I just think you got to be aggressive and just you can't. Look, I have no idea what the market's doing. I pay no attention at all because I just don't care. But
Yeah.
that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do.
Okay, I love that perspective because I do think we tend to get a little older and then we're more conservative. We don't want to put as much money in. But if you have a limited time
Yes.
horizon and you haven't saved up until now, thinking about Social Security and your job as your bond
Yeah.
might make you just relax a little bit and put some money into stocks where you do have the capability to earn those bigger returns because your time horizon is so short. It's almost an opposite approach, but totally interesting.
But no, I mean, so I have a video called the 2 bucket retirement plan where you have basically 3 years of cash, literally in CDs, and everything else is in stocks. I don't advocate any bonds whatsoever. And going back to Dave Ramsey, I would agree with him on that. He's not a fan of bonds either. And so and the reason, again, for that is because you already have big bonds. I mean, you got a bond in Social Security, your home, you can downsize, you can take a reverse mortgage. There's all kinds of different things you can do with your home to
Hmm.
generate cash flow from that, which a lot of people don't do. And I don't get that at all. But either way, 3 years of cash, and you can ladder CDs, 1, 2, 3 year CDs, and then the rest in stocks. And that's the portfolio you should do as you hit retirement.
Okay.
Obviously, I would rather have you retire with $1 billion than 100,000. But man, you can easily get by just fine on $100,000 as long as you know how to manipulate the Social Security system to the benefit, which isn't really that difficult. It really just means don't take it early. I mean, there's no other way around
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I do agree with that. You can lose quite a bit
Oh,
by taking it early. And I think, I hear from people all the time, they say, well, I might die tomorrow. Well, statistically, that's not the case. So
well,
it's
Danielle,
not always a good idea.
they'll say their average life expectancy is 78. I said, your average life expectancy is not 78. It's 78 if you're a newborn today.
Yeah.
65 years old today is not 78. There's a 50% chance a couple today at 65 will survive, one of them, until they're 92.
Yeah.
And so everyone thinks life expectancy is 78. So if I take it at 62, that'll be better than if I take it at 66, my full retirement age. It's simply not true. 78 is not the life expectancy for someone that is looking at Medicare. It's just not.
Yeah. Yeah. So you really got to think about that for the long term. And sometimes we want to sort of have the bird in the hand, but when you're talking about the difference between 70% of your full retirement age or 124%, that's a really big gap. So, and if you're working anyway and you don't need the money, that happens to you, I think you've got to, like you say, wait as long as possible. Well, such great information, Josh. I would love chatting with you because this perspective, I think, is what so many people need to hear when they feel fearful, or sometimes we have this comparison mindset where, oh, I've got these neighbors over here and they've just put away all this money for retirement and I'm starting so late. Why would I bother? And the answer is that, the time to start is today. Today is the time. You've got 5 years, 10 years, 3 years, whatever you can do to help yourself out. Get out there and do it now while you still have some time.
The past is, you can't do anything about the past. You can't change the future, but you can do something about today, and that's pay off your debt, start saving money, and then stop learning so much about it. It doesn't make sense to go through life worried about Social Security or whoever is in administration. Or it just doesn't make sense. Just recognize that you can control what you do, and what you do today should be to advance the ball forward, to live the life that you're put on this earth to do, which is to bring cheer and goodwill.
Yes.
The worry is the antithesis of that, that's for sure.
I totally agree. So where can people find out more about you?
So my YouTube channel is just youtube.com/Heritage Wealth Planning, and I do probably 3 or 4 videos a day because it's I never got a cocaine crack, but I do like YouTube. It's my drug of choice, if you will. And I have a podcast, the Josh Scanlon podcast is out there as well. My website's Heritage Wealth Planning, but YouTube is where I put everything on just because it's fun. And there's always something to talk about. Every day something new comes down the pike, and so that's where they can find me. So I really appreciate you having me, Danielle. This is fantastic. I look forward to asking you a ton of questions about Medicare as well, because people, and
I know.
Everyone talks about how confusing Social Security is. You ain't seen nothing yet. Wait till you're on Medicare. My goodness.
That's true. Tough. With these 2 videos in a row, you've got a financial plan and Medicare. People will be afraid to ever retire.
Oh, man. Medicare it is nuts. And real quick, Danielle, I'm telling you, get a freaking broker like Danielle, because there's no way. There is no way.
Yeah.
There's no way that someone, a regular human being, can figure all that stuff out. There's no way that can happen. One thing with Social Security is one thing, but when it comes to Medicare, it is 10 times more complex. And sadly, if you make that mistake, you might not be able to recoup from it, given pre-existing conditions and whatnot with Medigap. So do not get a Medicare without seeking assistance. For the love of the good Lord, don't do that.
Yep, and we'll be putting out plenty more videos about that here on our own channel. So thanks so much for chatting with us today. I really appreciate it, Josh. And folks, go and check out Josh's YouTube channel and thank him for his time. Have a good day.
Thanks, Danielle.
Bye.
So there you have it, folks. We hope you enjoyed this interview and that it gave you some food for thought on retiring to do something that you love. Now that we filmed this video, we're curious to hear whether you plan to start a new part-time or even full-time career after you officially retire from your current job. If so, tell us what you'll be doing. We'd love to hear all about it. Now, if you want to work but you aren't sure doing what, you can visit our blog post about 50 ingenious ways that you can earn extra money in retirement. I'll drop the link in the description below this video. Lastly, if you want more of Josh, be sure to subscribe to the Heritage Wealth Planning channel here on YouTube. And if you want more Boomer benefits, you can subscribe to our channel using the red button below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.